According to some genre scholars, yes, those exist, a heist film has to have three elements to be considered as such: the plan, the execution, and the consequences. I'm no scholar, though I did went to film school. Yes, you may groan. I'd say that just as important as the structure are the tropes that make the heist. Getting the band back together, the cat and mouse game, the reversal of fortune. Heists are my favorite genre of film. Besides road movie and whatever Cronenberg's Crash is. They buck the trend of the lone hero's journey, so prevalent in Western media. Heists tell inherently collective stories about competency porn. So, you're telling me, highly talented people get together for a common goal to steal from a rich a-hole who has it coming and get away with it? And to top it all off, police and authority figures are also portrayed as antagonists? Absolute cinema. But the tone of the heist wasn't always like that. The heist as a genre has a lineage stretching all the way back to the Great Train Robbery. Although some say the genre truly came into its own in the 50s, it was in the 30s that one of its greatest influences appeared: the Hays Code. Formerly, the Motion Picture Production Code was an attempt at self-regulation, or rather self-censorship of the content of Hollywood films, that lasted almost 40 years. Key among those restrictions was the inclusion of negative consequences for any criminal act. That's why in the original Ocean's 11, not even old Blue Eyes himself and the Rat Pack at the peak of their popularity could get away with a caper. If that sounded like boomer gibberish to you, just think of it as the equivalent of Bad Bunny and BTS doing a heist. Years pass, new Hollywood enters the picture. The code is relaxed and finally discarded. And wouldn't you know, it's the 90s! Enter screenwriter Ted Griffin. He is hired to write the remake of Ocean's 11, and he is not a fan of the original, and so decides to make a lot of changes. Chief among those changes is that they should get away with it. The code was dead at this point, but the heist was still being informed by all those heists with bad endings: Thief, Heat, Point Break, Reservoir Dogs. Ted's idea is kind of subversive at this point. So they get together, they make a movie, and this little avant-garde film grosses $45 million at the box office in $1999. And as it exists in a time before streaming, it has time to become popular on cable and home video. Bada bing, bada boom. A whole generation of viewers grows up with Ocean's 11 as a template of what a heist should look like. After Oceans, if a robbery is sad, it's not a heist, it's a crime film. The Subversion becomes the template. Brief aside, I find it very rich that the story circle guy thinks heists are dumb and formulaic when he literally uses the same circular structure for every episode of his TV shows. Anywho, 3 years later, Warner needed a chaser for that sweet, sweet box office money, and we get Not the Consequences of My Actions, the movie, also known as Ocean's 12. In short, it's the missing code-compliant third act of the first movie. It's a funny, chic, and sometimes meta
Sta arrivando Julia Roberts.
send-up of the original, or rather, the remake of the original? Baudrillard would have a field day with this one. It subverts the happy ending of the first one by introducing consequences one trope at a time. Getting the band back together becomes threatening the band back together. One less job turns into we need any job we can get. It makes the femme fatale into a cop, so on and so forth. And what it doesn't subvert, it turns up to 11. Or should I say, 12. I'll show myself out. While the first movie is certainly stylish, the sequel is glamorous, sexy, chic, European if you will. Gone are drab corporate vaults, and in its place there's museums, baroque houses, trains. The villain's Lake Como-themed casino becomes the antagonist's actual Lake Como villa. Businessman becomes the old money aristocrat, etc., etc. Even the lore gets expanded. Criminals have rules now, apparently.
You broke rule number 1. That has consequences.
Constars.
The really bad news is he was trained by Lamarck.
What?
Oh, no.
This is not good.
With V. Lamarck, Gaspar Lamarck.
And of course, more con names.
It's called the Schumann Special.
Let me guess, he pulled a Lost in Translation on you?
Baker's dozen.
No woman and not enough people.
Hell in a handbasket. We can't train a cat that quickly.
It allows its cast to play and have fun and doesn't cut away from it.
How do you think it feels when you're sitting down on the toilet and someone's banging on the door?
Well, I gotta sit down on the toilet, otherwise I'm gonna shit on your feet.
It's Fabergé eggs, Amsterdam canals, Roman cafes, dresses, suits, private jets, Italian jails, and more. It asks the question, how can I make a tire trope such as a laser hallway more cinematic?
Si cruzo me quema.
And raises you a Vincent Cassel doing capoeira to a French rap beat. It's a movie that revels in its moviness.
It feels like a movie.
It takes decades of genre refinement and distills it into what I think is the perfect heist. It's firing on all cylinders and letting you know it was hard. And no one will ever get to do something like it unless your name is Star Sam or you shoot it all in the volume to cut costs, but that's just half of the reason why it's my favorite movie. My first proper move as an adult was a heist of sorts. The Plan. I posted on Facebook. This immediately dates me, I know. To enlist the help of friends for the move, back when you could do that in social media. The Execution. The fact that I had to move to the building right across the street from where I was did help in getting a good turnout. And so, without any movers, we've got all my belongings, including a fridge that's older than me, my giant-ass matchstick lamp, and my lack of bed into my new digs in record time. We were done before sundown, so as a thank you for a successful and lawful heist, I ordered pizza and some beer so we could hang out for a bit. As usual, I played my music on shuffle, like the heathen that I am, and L'Appuntamento from the Ocean Soul soundtrack started playing. Obviously, this is not the song because Content ID. And this guy, whom I consider an acquaintance until then, says, I love the song, makes me feel like I'm reunited with my long-lost father in the coast of the Mediterranean. He did not know Ocean Soul was one of my favorite movies, but that comment made us the best of friends, and it made me love the movie even more. Although I just presented you with a bunch of film theory sounding reasons why this is a great movie, it's great to me because of those reasons and because it's a movie that made a friendship happen. Because it's a movie that cheers me up in a bad day. Because it's a movie I can watch 100 times. Because it's my hot take movie among my fellow film nerds. Movies can be meaningful beyond their text and execution. If a piece of art makes someone cry, it can be significant to that person not only because of the craft that elicited those tears, but because that person will remember those tears, or how a stranger comforted them afterwards, or it revealed something they ignore inside of themselves, or any other myriad non-art related reasons. Films are not only their craft and structure, they're also the stories that happen around them, in our lives. The Mummy is one of the greatest action-adventure films of all time, hands down. But it's one of my top 4 on Letterboxd because it's the one movie my family had an unspoken agreement to leave on whenever we encountered it on cable. So we ended up watching it together 13 times in a single year. As a man from the Andes, I find The Emperor's New Groove lack of curiosity about indigenous Andean culture offensive. But it's the movie that my wife and I watched on our first date, so I love it. This applies to any piece of media or art. Bella Señora by Emmanuel will forever transport me to the lobby of a hostel in San Telmo where I nursed a nuclear-level hangover. There was a whole stretch of 6 months that I avoided poetry because it reminded me of an ex who did poetry. I know, ridiculous. I like film theory channels as much as the next guy, but not everything is craft. You can try to justify in 1,000,001 ways why your fave is your fave to other people on a technical level, but your fave is your fave, or the opposite, because it means something to you outside of itself. And that's okay. That's art. Take care.